pinpoint where some of the Marxists went wrong. What about the Frankfurt School? Where did the Frankfurt School go wrong in this model?
Frankfurt School.
It was Theodore, Tino, and all those guys.
I don't know, what's his name? Habermas. They still believe in this, you see. They suspect this. They suspect the dialectics of subjectivism. Because they want to be objective. Right? So I think they lost their way. Right. Most of them have died that way.
Yeah, they're just a very interesting. Frankfurt School is very, very interesting.
Although it's interesting because of his artistic background, his music, right? He couldn't quite fit into the Frankfurt School, you know.
And yet he was really the founder.
No, but he was one of the founding groups. But I think in time, especially when he went to America, a lot involved in the Blues Revolt and so on, right? In the 60s, he became much more aware of the subjective thinking of young people, you know? And he tried to influence that. Yeah, if you have a question, then I see how it can be analyzed. Yeah. Like for example, how should we bring up the?
Yeah, I want to ask it.
Well, part of the reason why I'm asking is also you go and see the new lists and thoughts. A lot of them are quite influenced by Adorno's thinking.
Okay, let's look at the early childhood education, those kind of ideas, right? You are aware of Dr. Spock, right? Dr. Spock.
Lin.
The hat in the hat. Okay, how do I know? No, that's Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss.
The cat in the hat.
Dr. Seuss was also quite connected with the idea of okay.
So I think so. I've got one question, right?
Yeah.
You said your society comparison was between China as one model and the West as one model.
Yeah.
Where you had a version of Western capitalism.
Yeah.
I just like to ask, is your version of Western capitalism a bit too one-sided in the sense that it's dominated by a very US-centric model, whereas you have a rather more mixed model in Europe in the form of Germany, where there's more social democracy in the form of Germany, France, UK somewhat, but definitely the Nordic countries. So in that sense, how do you explain those forms that are?
Yeah, I was going to talk about it here. This is good.
Use another flip chart.
You know the important book by Max Weber? Max Weber, right? He wrote this book on sociology, sorry. What was the title of the book? The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Okay. The Protestant ethic was based on the parable of the prodigal son. You know the parable in the Bible? Right. The rich man who went away and gave a sum of money to each child. There were 3 children, right? Gave it to one who took the money and locked it up to make sure the money is not wasted. He gave it to
That's
another
not the
one.
prodigal son.
Huh?
That's actually the master and the 3
servants.
servants.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
sorry, not the parable
Yeah.
of Jesus.
Yeah, so the first one went out to
He spent a book.
no, the first one.
Sorry,
No,
the
the
parable of
first.
the prodigal, is the parable of the prodigal son and parable of the 3 servants.
Yeah.
But there is no parallel of the 3 prodigal
Got
sons.
the idea?
Yeah, but the 3
The idea
were.
is very different.
Yeah.
He invested money.
He invested money, okay, and he made money. Okay, the second one, he actually was a bit more conservative.
Oh,
So
he just kept the money.
no, he put it in like
Put it in the
bank,
bank. Put it in
and
the
then
bank.
he actually
He locked it up.
yeah.
He's not bank.
Yeah.
They're waiting the
So
bank.
he-
The term where the
he-
interest was used.
where he got some interest,
Yeah.
but the returns weren't great. But at least he was able to give the return, the money, the capital sum plus a bit of profit. But the third one, he just buried the
No, he didn't.
buried the money
Yeah.
in the ground. Okay.
Yeah.
But this parable is often used to I don't know, I'm not familiar with the Protestant ethic
Yeah.
and but this parable is often used like priest laws would always tell us
So the
money is
Protestant-
our
Protestant-
talent. Yeah.
The Protestant ethic is that you must make use of the money well. Okay, and that is the spirit of capitalism. Okay, but what Max Weber did not talk about was the implications of the subjective part, which is what the Beatitudes. Jesus, when he went out on the mountain, talked about the Beatitudes, right? That the meek shall inherit the world,
The meek,
right?
Yeah.
And
Happy are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea of capitalism at that time was to use the capital resources in a way that would grow, right, and also provide some social benefit. Now, the difference between the economic philosophy of Europe as compared to American one is this. Because of, see, after 1917, after the end of First World War, right, the Communist Party of Soviet Union was formed in 1980. Okay. The Communist Manifesto was published in 1846, and it created a lot of impact on the labor movement all over Europe, particularly in England, because the English Industrial Revolution was the most advanced. Right? After Second World War, after First World War, the Industrial Revolution began a lot more in Europe, particularly in Germany. Right? And the communist movements in Europe were very pronounced, particularly, let's say in Germany, Rosa Luxemburg, for example, is a major figure, right? And there were other major communist philosophers, right? And the European capitalist class were threatened like hell. So they formed a kind of compromise, you see. So therefore you have very interesting, the two major philosophers he published in 1945. First was, what's his name now? The book was The Great Transformation. You check it out on the Great Transformation by, I can't remember.
Polanyi, is it? Polanyi, is it?
Yeah, Polanyi. Carl Polanyi. He basically said that in order to have a reasonably stable society, we need to have a market economy with social protection. Okay? This was in answer to the other very radical economist, Friedrich Hayek. Hayek basically said, who wrote the book, The Road to Serfdom. In other words, if you take the socialist road, you will end up as a serf of the state, which is a critique of the Soviet Union. And Hayek's great admirer and protege was Mises. No, von Mises was one of his people in Austria.
So that created.
No, but the influential guy was in University of Chicago. Milton Friedman, you see, followed exactly and Milton Friedman became the required reading of the Republican Party. And my research found very interesting thing. When Lee Kuan Yew went to Harvard in 1968, that is where he learned it. So when he, in fact, it's very interesting.
Sorry, let us interject just need to listen back to this sentence.
Wait, let me finish the story. Very, very interesting.
Because you are going all the way from here to here. So if you just give me to this, because this is political economy, and the context is very simple. And it's the same problem that is happening today as in yesterday. The Industrial Revolution brought a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
How do you distribute that wealth? Question. Marx, in between, and Hayek.
Yes.
Same question. How do you distribute the wealth? How do you address it?
You got to ask another question. See, where did the money come from?
No, the money came from because of what Schumpeter said. Industry, technology.
No. Where did the money come to invest in industry? From opium. And that's why Singapore was a major role. The Jewish families were planting opium in India, coming through the Sassoon family in Singapore, and all the way to Shanghai.
Yes, but
And the money in Shanghai went to finance the British Industrial Revolution.
Yes, but the Industrial Revolution would have happened whether without opium or not, because it was technology that was driving
The
it.
technology was available, but the money to use the technology
It would have come no matter what.
because cannot be no matter what. The money must come from somewhere.
Okay, so let's just say the money comes from opium. Okay, comes from opium, lah. But the thing is that now you are delving into
Okay, no, sorry,
Marxism.
so yeah, that's problem number one, Industrial Revolution. Now we've got the second revolution, computer revolution, information revolution, automation, AI, and the results of it. So the same question applies as the first one. How do you distribute or how do you share the benefits of the growth? That's point number two. Point number three, in between, he said about Friedman and free market economics, but Friedman was more than free market economics. He was a monetarist. He was inflation driven. He wanted to keep inflation down. But that was also a problem of economics and how we define economics, because monetary policy, inflation, is a problem faced by not only capitalist economies, it's also faced by socialist economies.
Yeah, but let me interject, right? Not because I read economics, sorry. But I think if you all were to define economics, at least modern economics, from the point of view that it is the father of modern economics is Adam Smith, then a lot of it we have to go back to the roots, that is the study of Adam Smith. And Adam Smith talked about moral sentiments. So that a lot of people go talk about the wealth of nations, but they forgot about moral sentiments. And where does all the labor come from? And what is defined by capital? Capital cannot just be defined by quotes. It must also be defined by consensus. So to me, the willingness to say I participate in an open market.
By consensus in capitalism.
No, I mean capital. Not capitalism. Capital is also consensus.
Consensus of who?
Consensus of the participants.
Who are the participants?
The ones who are participating in that market or that project or anything. The stakeholder.
No, are you saying that there is a consensus among the working class about capitalism? Or is there a consensus at the capitalist class? Which class are you talking about?
Well, I think universally there should be a consensus, but there may be a consensus of the capital class or the money class. But then that's a hypocrisy, and we all know because actually economics is not something that's new. It's thousands of years old. The four Roman much political power as well as physical power.
Yeah, so what's the point?
My point is we cannot just think about where the capital is coming from and it's only from the rich, because at the end of the day it's the people who are saying we are the ones who are the capital. Yeah. I'm not saying labor. I just say
No,
this way.
you're right in a certain way that labor became capital.
Yeah.
Right? That's why Lee Kuan Yew says the peasant has become a useful digit for the machinery of state. So that is the consensus you see. Now the cultural aspect right, influence the human being who then work here, see? Right? That is
But in moral sentiments is about agreement. For example, if a beautiful model has a photo taken and AI is used to make a wonderful movie, she may not have acted, she may not have done anything, but by agreement, she is the stakeholder. She is capital, even though it is only her image that's being used.
very interesting point. The spiritual philosophy that affects the human being, right? And the survival imperative, right? So you have knowledge, right? You have illusion, you have delusion, you have fiction. Okay? The manufacture of consent of worker you must use the survival imperative, right, to make sure that people do not ask deep questions. So that you must distract them. This is very interesting. When the first wave of industrialization rooted, right? Who were the workers? The workers were people from the rural farming areas. They came to the city to find jobs, right? And work in the factories. And basically, the requirement of the employer is, I don't want you to think, I don't want you to feel anything, I just want to use your hand. So the production line, see, just work, and shut up. Okay? But people feel very frustrated, you see. Right? They feel frustrated. Right? The culture is frustrated. So that was the beginning of the amusement park. They set up amusement parks all over the industrial estates in order to have people, go and release themselves, go and play, say, sing song, whatever, right? So in Singapore, we have New World, we have Happy World, we have Great World, all of these worlds, right? And then after that, no more effective, right? Then you have Hollywood, movies, and then now you have video games. All of these are distractions, so that you don't ask difficult questions. So you talk about consensus. That is the manufacture of consensus.
No, wait a minute. You just now you talked about opium and this and that,
Yeah.
and then you raised something about capital, money, and all. Okay, now way back there was no money, right? It was barter trade and all that.
Oh, the Chinese were the first to invent.
Okay, fine.
Before money
Before there was
before
money.
money was barter.
Okay, and then
Before money was just trade of
Barter.
barter, right? Then
But Chinese did because north and south, you see, right, and the river, right. So they were selling rice to the north, right, and therefore they have to buy at distance, right. So the Chinese invented the what you call the promissory note.
Paper currency.
Paper currency,
It had to be backed by the state.
Correct, right. So that paper currency then went to Europe.
right. So basically, Europe all these copy China also lah. Yeah. Okay. Now the Industrial Revolution you said was maybe started in the UK, and what the Industrial Revolution did was that it actually, last time, let's say the cobbler made a few pairs of shoes, but now there's this whole factory mass production, and it dehumanizes the value of the world. In fact, the cost of the shoe became so much lower because of all that, and it put the wealth in just the hands of the factory owner, right? Right, and the capitalist class. And during that time, I think there was already a lot of unhappiness, and in fact, so that there were like writings, but in fact the early Christians, in fact, practiced a form of communism, because you read in the Bible, they gathered everything, they shared, blah blah blah. So I read a little.
Tolstoy.
Yeah,
Tolstoy was.
So I read a little bit of Marx and Lenin, and you have to see communism in Russia as a response to what happened during that time. You know, the czars and all that, the abusers, and the Tsar was so, he was so detached. He didn't know like what was happening outside. So people naturally were like so frustrated. So now what I find most interesting is that China is unique in the sense that it's one of the few communist countries that's so successful now in their form of and brand of capitalism. You go to any part of China now, you don't believe it that it's a communist country.
Yeah, but it also puts a lot of worry for someone who's seeing India, because capitalism has always been in existence. And you see the rise and fall of empires. It seems that China is, in fact, from a certain point of view, is even more capitalistic than even in the US. If you've been to China, right? And how controlled it is, of course, all their planetary 5-year plans, they can say a lot of things, but I think that already in the psyche of a lot of young Chinese is already go out and make money.
Yeah.
I want to be the next Li Ka-shing. I want to be the next Jack Ma. And those are some of their focus rather than being Unitarian.
It's an interesting point because
sorry. I only booked the room until 8:30. So can you close up?
the Chinese people here, unlike the West, unlike the Abrahamic religions, which basically says everybody is born evil, right? Because Adam and Eve, they ate the tree of knowledge and they became corrupted, right? And therefore they need redemption. Right? So Judaism, Christianity, and Islam follow that same logic. But in the Chinese spiritualism, it's opposite. It's Confucius, right? And it's Buddhism, right? Which teaches people, right, to Confucius basically says human beings are born good. Your role in life is to have a good family, so that you not and having good family life means you are a unit of your community, which is then a unit of the nation. So you start off with a good family and then you go, right? And I think this is what we're doing, right? In a messy way because of one child family.
Right.
Yeah. But it does not have the need for repentance, which is the Western model. So you have not only political differentiation, you have a civilizational difference now. The whole Western is evil needs redemption. The whole East Asian philosophy, including Indian, right, is about enlightenment. You see, the Indian is Buddhism, right? And the Chinese enlightenment is about being a good person, right? So these two civilizational trajectories, right? I asked the question, civilizational systems result in different political systems, which I think the Chinese are trying to do something. And in India also. And frankly, I think the deep down conflict in India between Islam and Hinduism is precisely like this one. Right? Because the Indians don't believe in redemption, they believe in enlightenment. And that's why they cannot get along. See, that's why you have Pakistan and so on. Right? And now I think the Pakistan kind of drifting westwards. Right? And India is kind of uncertain. But you know, the interesting point that I want to make is this. When you talk about Chinese capitalism, what Deng Xiaoping did in his opening up and reform movement, right? And this is where I will end my discussion, because Deng Xiaoping's very important strategic position was, I will make fundamental changes in China without disrupting the mainstream of Chinese Communist Party's totalitarian approach. For example, the farming system at the time in the early 80s, late 70s, Chinese economy was primarily agriculture. And the agriculture was organized into collective farms, right? And everybody was working, right? And everybody shared the things equally. So productivity was very low. And then some farmers decided to privatize their family farm. And they actually signed a contract among themselves called the plot. It was written on a contract that said that, because they knew if they are caught, they will be executed. And the contract was that if I'm executed, you will look after my family. So there was this internal arrangement among the farmers. And the productivity went up 4 times. So the Communist Party was shocked by this, So that within the Communist Party, they were saying we must crack down on this, because this is revisionism, This is capitalist hoarding, right? Whereas Deng Xiaoping say, hey, I don't care whether they can black or white, so all these cats right? That was his point, right? So he says, yeah, okay, we shut one eye up. So they shut one eye. And then the privatized farms expanded the whole of China. And because the productivity went up so high, there was oversupply of labor, which allowed Deng Xiaoping to start the special economic zones. And he came to Singapore to learn from Singapore how to set up the special economic zone using foreign capital. Right? But in the case of China, Deng Xiaoping then ring-fenced that the capital can only operate within the special economic zone, cannot go out. Right? So that protected the majority of the Chinese Communist Party economy. Right? So they allowed the special economic zones to boom. That's why foreign capital came in and were tremendous. And they had a lot of cheap labor from the farms that were coming in, you see. So they succeeded.
Okay, sorry.
So now my argument
anymore?
in Singapore is that now that Deng Xiaoping learned from Singapore, now we must learn from Deng Xiaoping. Alright, what do we learn? For Singapore's future, that's why I publish this in my Facebook page. We must turn all our campuses, university campuses, polytechnic campuses, IB campuses, into special economic zones. Ring fence it so that land speculation cannot enter. So that young people can go in there, live together, learn together, earn together, make money there.
Make babies also.
Huh?
Baby population.
Make babies in the campus. Yes. Because the housing cost then will be half the price of, 1/3 the price of housing outside. Okay? And because you are living and learning and working together, right, you will be inventing new things. And this is where religion says Singapore must move towards what he calls a prototype economy. That means we invent new things, right? And then patent it, finance it, invest it in Vietnam, in Indonesia, wherever is suitable, right? And that's our future, right? Because the young people now are frustrated. They are dead trapped in the HDB, right? My son-in-law, my daughter, right? He and his wife bought a flat for $650,000. I say, young man, you're going to spend the rest of your life paying for it. Therefore, what? Because then you dare not try anything, right? You dare not upset your boss, you dare not try anything. So Singapore is not that trapped. Yes. And the PFP knows it. So what they do? Hand out CBC voucher.
So, when are you meeting the PAPP?
I'm in Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.